Okay, so this is to humor myself and hopefully my viewers, if this amounts to anything, real time research. I just watched about 30 seconds of a video and saw a quote from the book of James. And the quote seemed familiar. Well, when I first woke up and then kind of immediately wanted to pick up a Bible and take another look, um, I was kind of pissed at the name James because I associated a couple of particular Jameses with Peter and Hathor and Elizabeth. The point is, I discounted the fact that a particular reference to James, I think it's James, the brother of Jesus, according to modern understanding. Well, he's actually Brian. Um, and well, a long time ago, he kind of founded Ireland and Celtic Gaul. A bit. He probably lived for around 550 years. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the studio and my bedroom and get my Bible and pressing pause now. Very small, and it's right next to the book of Peter. I'm going to read Dr. Henry Morris's analysis of the Epistle of James. This first of the general epistles was written by James, who had become the acknowledged leader of the Jerusalem church. He presided at the Jerusalem Council of Acts 15 and was identified as the one from whom certain men had sent to Antioch. Galatians 2:12. Paul reported to James in Acts 21:18 and 19. James could not have been the brother of John and son of Zebedee, of course, for that James had been martyred. Acts 12:2. In fact, Paul called him the Lord's brother. I've never trusted the book of Acts. Like, it's kind of like the book of works of man. It's like you were immediately warned about that kind of thing a couple pages before, and it like just always seemed kind of ominous to me. That it's really easy to find just nah in it. Just nah. That's all I'm gonna really say right now. This is about Acts. This is about James. So, because Paul called him the Lord's brother in Galatians 1:19, this identifies him as one of the half-brothers of Jesus, Matthew 13:55 and Mark 6:3. As such, he did not believe in Christ until after his resurrection, but then in the risen Christ when he met him. So 2,000 years later, we know the moment this one guy was converted. sounds like they're picking a whole bunch of stuff apart to point out what might seem to be, like, this is the reason I'm reading this. The theory I will test now, after reading this introduction, I'm going to go into this book, is see if this Epistle of James seems like it has anything in it that seems to indicate that James was the brother of John. Because if James is the brother of John, and James is the brother of Jesus, transitive property, Jesus is John. Because Jesus is a phrase that means I am. You know, the going theory and whatnot. Theory. By the way, anybody who knows me pretty well and saw the Once Upon a Time episode, shouldn't be a theory for you now anymore, is it? But suppose I'll make my video on the definition of perfection soon for all you little humans to squirm to. But anyways, back to my little real-time research crap. Sorry, babbling. It's late. I'm tired. So, gonna read this whole epistle now. I'll be back. First little thing was about patience and being a perfect work and making people perfect. Oh yeah, that gets misinterpreted a lot. And then the little thing like a wave of the sea. I remember saying to Peter, not James, but James, well, Brian was there. He that is blown by the wind may swell up like a wave, but will not avoid the shore and smash upon the rock. Doesn't work that well in modern English, but just thought it was interesting. I wonder if this will ever stop being awkward for me. Deep down, I don't think I want it to stop being awkward for me, because it's too funny in a very fluid and decent sounding way, and I like brain farted mid sentence. Well, the proof would be in the pudding. I am not Bill Cosby. This is cool. I'm seeing one after another, like, paraphrases in his manner of memory, like, kind of just like the way he would more simplify things as he remembered them. Trying really hard. We went through a lot together back then. There was a great war. Y'all just don't know. He was doing his best to paraphrase Jesus. Appropriate usage of the word, because that's the title of the Messiah at the time. Or the Messiah. Well. Boy, there's some semantical technicalities there. Not getting into that right now. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. if you're not susceptible to temptation, to messing up speech because you have horrible broken tooth, um, yeah, that's my excuse. Um, but if you're not susceptible to, oh, last time for a hiccup, if you're not susceptible to temptation, what's the point of being tempted? The temptation of Christ, right? Are they calling God a pussy? Like, seriously, people who think that Jesus was completely without sin his entire life before his time had come, by whose definition? I mean, if perfect and you just can't sin, then where's the challenge? What are you enduring? If you're not enduring anything, where's the blessing of the wisdom that comes with it? And, like, is God supposed to be too chicken shit to experience things as his children would? Blessed is he that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. God cannot be tempted. That's what his son's for. That's all the point of the next three passages is uh, don't blame temptation on God. Don't be like, oh, I was drawn this way. It's your fault. It's, you never had any tests that you couldn't at least make a D plus on. Okay? If you failed, that's your fault. To hear and slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. 27. Basically, don't spend too much time with philosophy or conspiracy theories or over religiousness. Spend more time actually living by those philosophies and helping the victims of those conspiracies if they're actually real conspiracies. You know what I'm saying? Don't just talk about it. Do it. Holler with the Once Upon a Time finale. I just recently started bringing that part of my lifetime up again. My last very big lifetime, very long lifetime. Shocking that it could actually be so well erased from people's knowledge. Most people know about individual aspects of that, but they just have no idea that the book of Revelation already happened 1,000 years ago. So they have, like, no reason to even consider an equation, let alone add it up, you know? But if you were in Bible studies, I'm sorry to get on a tangent, but we just finally watched that season finale right before bed. tonight. Um, so yeah, last night's video I had not seen the Once Upon a Time finale yet. I'm gonna pause again while I think what I was going to say. See, for me, and I've talked about this to other people, and it was just kind of like, oh, we don't really freaking know. There's this 1,000-year period, and all that used to be even like the John Hagee type people. And there's this sense of presentness in the New Testament. And it just seemed like the 1,000-year period should have happened 1,000 years ago. But I put that discrepancy out of my mind because I wasn't really trying to nitpick end time prophecy because, well, there could be some time travel issues there or whatever. You never know. But that whole, I guess you could call it a theory that 2,000-year period started when everything went down. Uh, but it's very, very conducive with my memory, but in a very subject to interpretation sort of sense. And it has a lot to do with the Crusades and Rome. These things have been separated in people's minds, and I'm not really sure why. But Rome and the Crusades were all kind of, they flow right into each other. Verse 3. Ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say to the poor, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say unto the poor, stand thou there, or sit here. Under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, hath not God chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom, which he hath promised to them that love him? But ye, with your gay clothing, big long fancy robes, or but ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by which ye are called? If you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well. But if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. This is okay. This whole thing is about rich people judging poor people, and you should respect the poor. But it kind of reads like a cryptex, like as if the people who compiled this were wearing the gay clothing. It's a big fancy gold ring, big, big jewelry crown. Jeez. James. Lord of the Table, Yamez. There's a James that's not a good guy. And then there's the James who actually wrote this, who I think was, and yeah, I'm not gonna make this video any longer. There's only a couple more pages of this. I'll hit record again if I get any contradictions to this, but I might wrap this video up here. At least start to. So the person known as James, that is actually Brian, my brother. Okay, he wrote the original version of this, but the James who was either, well, I'm pretty sure he was Peter. Okay, like an immortal evil demon possessed Peter was the one. King James, yes, King James was fucking Peter. Get that through your thick skulls. um, that's according to my memory, and I can verify it, like in ways that are not easily explained. Like there's just a whole bunch of aspects of common knowledge that people don't connect the dots, because if they try to connect the dots, they just don't have any explanations for it, and that's outside of their comfort zone. So yeah, he edited this, and more than likely Brian's name was never James. He just inserted himself out of vanity. Because, man, Peter went around claiming to be Jesus. Okay? Peter, the rock, the hard headed one. Yeah. I'll build my church on his ass. Like a fucking house landing on the Wicked Witch. See, the interesting thing about being a human trying to battle the god of deception and war, war, war is in its most powerful form. It's not about firepower. It's about bullshit. Okay? Remember that when you're watching the fucking news these days. Slava Ukraine. Which, chapter 2, verse 25. Likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way. Verses surrounding it are, ye see that a man, wait, ye see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only. 26. For the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. This passage 25 just, it not only doesn't seem to fit, but it seems like it might be just a possible mistranslation. Let me read it a different way. Likewise also Ra Ha, the harlot, was not justified by works. To the not would come after the name and the title when translated to English. When she had received the messengers, when Hathor fucked a bunch of angels and then sent them to hell, had sent them out another way. So this weird little thing that's out of place, if you just move around the not, which is very likely, at least somewhat likely, as far as being able to be verified as a mistranslation, um, according to whatever text humans have as opposed to what I remember. Okay. As far as the way the Gaelic Hebrew would have worked, because this would have been written in Gaelic. Brian was Gaelic. Gay, happy, like gay clothing. There's like happiness that's like joy, and then there's happiness like, oh, I'm so happy. I have all these things. I'm happy. That's that's that kind of gay. For a second there, I thought it was gonna say like, I'm really struggling to keep my eyes open here. Thought it was talking about having respect for gay people and poor people. That would have been nice because you should have respect for gay people and poor people, especially gay poor people. If somebody's poor and gay, buy them a cookie or something. Next thing, watch what you say. Chapter 3. Be careful what you say because you're not the master. And you risk, ye false prophets, you risk becoming false prophets. This was speaking not to false prophets. This was Brian speaking to other people that were trying to help and warning them how to not become false prophets. Because what you say can have a very bad effect. It can greatly affect people's lives. And even if you have some insight, you shouldn't be speaking as though you are the master, because out of the same mouth both blessings and curses, and you are not the judge of mankind. sheds iniquity, does not envy others, who understands that wisdom is from God, who is merciful, honest, bears good fruit, is impartial, and is not a hypocrite. And the fruit of righteousness, of their righteousness, is the peace that they feel because they bring peace to others. But war being about greed and to destroy. Who art thou that judgest another? Chapter 4, 13 through 17. Don't talk about the good things you're going to do later on. Don't talk about improving yourself one day. Don't brag about something before you put the work into it. Because, you say, I'm going to do this. Well, you got the easy part done. This is a good book. Overall, this I highly recommend this. This is a 5 chapters of consolidated Christian wisdom. Good read. On chapter 5, 17. Hold on. Was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly. I didn't read this ahead of time. And he prayed. I got to that. Elias was a man subject to like passions, and I pressed record again. He prayed earnestly that it might not rain. And it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months, 3.5 years. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his ways shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. Well, there's something missing there between 18 and 19. This is, I know I got into this looking for what I'm seeing here, but it really seems to me kind of out of place to just suddenly mention one prophet by name, which, I know what the freaking Torah, I know what the Old Testament says, but I think Elijah was an incarnation. I think Elisha was written into a later person, but Elijah and Elisha were like titles of a living god and goddess. might be related to the Egyptian story. Hmm. Real-time research here. I'm letting you see me brain fart at 1 o'clock in the morning. Been out of coffee. Long story short, this book was written by Brian, the brother of John, which is the actual human name for the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Whether he fulfilled the role of Messiah at that point, not the semantic argument I'd ever bother with. What happened 1,000 years later, though, and eventually led to the whole, I don't know, game change. Yeah, that fulfills every aspect of any Hebrew prophecy. That's why they had to cover the shit up. So, as an act of faith and, I suppose, pure humorous masochism, I'm going to post this without watching it first. Now that's crazy. But I ain't got nothing to hide. So cheers. Please like the video if it's worth a crap. I don't even know if it's worth a crap yet. And if you'd like to ever see me do anything organized or professional, I'm gonna do it one day, and you'll have to subscribe to see it.